The setting of this anime is the exclusive Hyako Private Academy, where only the offspring of the wealthy attend. However, this is not your typical academic institution. After class hours, the students are given the opportunity to engage in gambling activities. The only catch is that if a student loses and is unable to pay back their debt to the winner, they will be demoted to the lowly status of a pet. Being a pet is a fate worse than death, as it subjects one to the cruel whims of their fellow students who are not pets. It is a fate that every student at the academy is desperate to avoid. Ryota Suzu is one of the hapless students at Hyako Private Academy. After losing a gamble to his classmate, Mary Sarome, he was unable to repay the debt, resulting in his demotion to the status of a pet. This tragic event transformed Ryota's life, causing him to spiral into a world of misery and despair. One day, Hyako Private Academy welcomed a new transfer student named Yumeko Jabami, who was placed in the same class as Ryota. As assigned, Ryota was tasked with showing Yumeko around the school and introducing her to its peculiar customs. However, as he watched Yumeko behave with childlike innocence, Ryota couldn't bear the thought of her falling into the trap of gambling like he did, so he took it upon himself to caution her, warning her of the dangers of gambling and the devastating consequences of becoming a pet. Just as Ryota was imparting his warning to Yumeko, the class's top gambler, Mary Sarome, issued a challenge to the new transfer student. To Ryota's shock and disbelief, Yumeko eagerly accepted the invitation to gamble. The gamble that Yumeko and Mary engaged in was a twisted version of rock, paper, scissors. In this modified version, the students in the class would draw their choices on cards and then place them in a box. Once all the cards were placed in the box, Yumeko and Mary each selected 3 cards to use in their high-stakes duel. Yumeko stumbled in the first round, leaving her in debt to the tune of 1.2 million yen. Mary's victory came with ease and she proceeded to mock Yumeko, taunting her for not comprehending the proper way to play. However, Mary's assumptions were misguided. Yumeko had known all along that Mary was cheating, using her hold over 80% of the class, who were her slaves, to manipulate the outcome of the game in her favor. This gave Mary an unfair advantage, allowing her to consistently select cards that worked to her benefit. Despite being aware of the cheating, Yumeko proposed a final bet worth 10 million yen, a sum that initially made Mary balk. Yumeko's relentless provocation, however, eventually led Mary to accept the challenge. Confident in her ability to win with the help of her puppet classmates, Mary agreed to the high-stakes gamble. However, Mary's confidence proved to be her undoing. She ultimately lost the gamble and found herself in debt for 8.8 million yen, unable to fully repay her obligations and forced to assume the status of a pet. In contrast, Yumeko chose to show her gratitude to Ryota for his kindness by offering to help pay off some of his debts using a portion of her winnings. This act of generosity marked the start of a friendship between the two. The news of Yumeko's stunning win quickly reached the ears of Kirari, the student council president and the mastermind behind the PETS system at Hyako Private Academy. Intrigued by Yumeko's gambling prowess, Kirari tasked Itsuki, a first-year student council member and daughter of a prominent toy company CEO in Japan who had never lost a card game, to challenge her. The stakes were high, with a bet of 20 million yen on the line for a game of double concentration. However, Yumeko had a trick up her sleeve. She revealed that the cards used in the game were fake and had been tampered with. As a result, Itsuki was forced to pay off Yumeko's debt and also face consequences from the student council. This stunning turn of events left Ryota in awe of Yumeko's cunning and strategic thinking. From that moment on, the two of them became even closer friends, united by their mutual admiration for each other. Despite the high stakes, Yumeko accepted the challenge and proposed a rematch against Itsuki, who was eager to collect Yumeko's nails as a trophy if she won. This time, the game was to be a double concentration game, with Itsuki's prize collection on the line. Ryota, who was still worried about Yumeko's massive debt, couldn't believe what he was witnessing. But true to form, Yumeko was not deterred by the potential consequences of losing. However, fate had other plans for Itsuki. Despite her confidence and tricks, she was defeated by Yumeko in their rematch. Yumeko had figured out Itsuki's cheating style, which involved placing small, barely noticeable markings on the backs of the cards. Thanks to her sharp memory, Yumeko was able to memorize these markings and use them to her advantage, ultimately leading to her victory and paying off her debt. If only Itsuki had used a fresh deck of cards, she may have emerged victorious. But also, it was not meant to be and Itsuki was left empty-handed, and without the addition of Yumeko's nails to her collection. Despite Itsuki's previous defeat, Yumeko didn't let up and issued another challenge. This time, if Itsuki lost, she would have to surrender her prized hooves. However, Itsuki refused to play and instead broke down in tears, pleading for Yumeko to forgive her. The mere thought of losing to Yumeko again was too much for her to bear. After her defeat, Itsuki was promptly removed from the student council. Meanwhile, Yumeko was approached by the culture club president and student council member, Yuriko, and was invited to visit her club room. It was then that Yumeko learned about a special privilege that pets possess. This privilege allows them to regain their status as regular students by challenging a student council member to a game. However, the challenge can only be made once, and all student council members must accept it without exception. If the pet loses, they will continue to be in debt and be a slave until graduation, unless they are able to repay their debt. As Yumeko made her way to the culture club room, she stumbled upon Mary as she attempted to reclaim her status as a regular student by challenging Yuriko. Unfortunately, Mary's efforts were in vain, as she lost to Yuriko, causing her debt to soar to an even higher amount of 50 million yen. And so, the stage was set for Yumeko's latest high-stakes game, the life or death game, against Yuriko. With a nominal bet of 40 million yen, Yumeko was forced to borrow the funds from her opponent, as she typically had no money of her own. The second round of the life or death game was in full swing, and Yumeko's daring strategy of betting all her chips on a single number board was being put to the test. Meanwhile, the student council president Kirari appeared to watch the game and observe Yumeko's moves. Yumeko, unfazed by the presence of Kirari, continued to provoke Yuriko to make larger bets with each move. The outcome of the round was yet to be determined, but Yumeko's bold approach had already made an impression on the onlookers. However, Yumeko's defeat was not the end of the story. She now owed 310 million yen and had been relegated to the rank of pets. Nevertheless, her determination to win had not wavered, and she continued to seek out new opportunities to reclaim her freedom and repay her debt. Despite her defeat, Yumeko was not discouraged. In fact, she was even more thrilled as she now had the opportunity to challenge any student council member at her leisure. However, her new status as a pet put her in a vulnerable position. As word spread of her fall from grace, a delinquent named Jun Kawadari saw an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. He dragged Yumeko to a secluded part of the school grounds with the intention of harassing her. But fate intervened in the form of a student council member, Midari, who happened to pass by and put a stop to the situation. A few days after Yumeko's defeat, the student council noticed the sharp increase in the number of pets. To alleviate the situation, they organized an event called the Debt Exchange Game. The game offered the pets an opportunity to clear their debts, but the consequences of losing would only make their situation worse. The Debt Exchange Game was underway, and Yumeko, Mary, June the Punk, and Nanami were grouped together to compete in Indian poker or blind man's bluff. As a pet, Yumeko was looking for a chance to pay off her debt, while Mary was in the same situation. On the other hand, June, who was not a pet and not in debt, participated in the event with the intention of profiting from it, confident in his ability to win easily. As the game progressed, Yumeko noticed the collaboration between June and Nanami, so she joined forces with Mary. She attempted to convince Nanami to switch sides and turn against June, hoping to catch him off guard. At the conclusion of the debt exchange game, the outcome was not in June's favor. Mary emerged victorious with her debt fully cleared. Nanami took second place, with her debt remaining unchanged. Yumeko placed third, incurring an additional debt of 50 million yen. Unfortunately, June came in last, with his debt skyrocketing to a staggering 310 million yen, thus landing him the title of a pet. Despite his initial confidence, June's ruthless tactics were no match for Yumeko's cunning strategy, and he ultimately received his comeuppance. Following the game, Yumeko's status as a pet remained, but her relationship with Mary had improved and they had become friends. Undeterred, Yumeko had a plan to use her special privileges as a pet to issue a challenge to the student council president, Kirari. Following the investigation, the student council members made a shocking discovery about Yumeko's financial situation. It turns out that she was actually incredibly wealthy, and could have easily paid off her debts if she wanted to. In fact, her wealth was so substantial that her sixth sister even made paper cranes out of her money. Days passed, and Yumeko found herself facing a fateful match. But before that, she was approached by Midari, who proposed a game of life and death. The stakes were high, as the losing party would be required to take their own life by shooting themselves in the head with a revolver loaded with randomly placed bullets. Despite her opportunity to emerge victorious, Yumeko chose to play it safe and made the game a draw, not wishing to bring harm to Midari. Midari was deeply moved by Yumeko's kindness and began to worship her, referring to her as her goddess. The following day, Itsuki approached Yumeko, pleading with her to be accepted into her inner circle of friends. In support of Yumeko, she even offered to finance her endeavors, with the hope that if Yumeko were to defeat Kirari and become the student council president, she would be reinstated into the student council. However, for some reason, Yumeko was compelled to exercise her special privileges as a pet and challenge Kaede, the student council treasurer. Kaede had no choice but to accept her challenge. The showdown between Yumeko and Kaede was set to take place in a modified version of poker, with the student council vice president, Ririka, as the dealer. Kaede, the son of the chairman of the National Financial Agency, was determined to win and brought along a hefty sum of 1 billion yen, using it to purchase 100 poker chips. In contrast, Yumeko only used 300 million yen to buy 31 chips. With Itsuki's financial backing, Yumeko was able to continue playing against Kaede. Despite Kaede having an advantage in chips, Yumeko's determination and cunning strategy earned her a comeback victory in the second round. She emerged triumphant, much to Kaede's surprise, and earned back the money she had lost, along with a large profit. Itsuki's faith in Yumeko had paid off, and their friendship was strengthened as a result of their collaboration in the high-stakes game. With the stakes higher than ever, the third round of the modified poker game began. The dealer, who had previously kept her identity hidden behind a mask, was revealed to be none other than Kirari, the student council president. Yumeko, determined to win, challenged Kaede to bet all of his assets, raising the pot to a staggering 3 billion yen. During the final round of the modified poker game, Yumeko's cunning strategy of provoking Kaede to raise his bet resulted in the accumulation of an impressive sum of money. Yumeko managed to persuade Itsuki to trust her with everything, bringing her bet to 12 billion yen. But Kaede, the son of the chairman of the National Financial Agency, was not one to be easily defeated. Fueled by Yumeko's provocation, Kaede raised his bet to an even higher amount, ultimately surpassing Yumeko. Unfortunately, Kaede's confidence in his strong hand proved to be his downfall as he lost the game, causing his debt to soar into the billions and leading to his downfall as a member of the student council. The shock of his defeat was so intense that Kaede collapsed in disbelief. After witnessing Yumeko's victory, Kirari was intrigued by her and invited her to a friendly gambling match. The two of them engaged in a heated game, but in the end, it resulted in a tie. The final scene of the anime shows Yumeko engaging in a game of chance with an enigmatic figure. The first season of this anime concludes with this scene, leaving us with a clear lesson to take away: the dangers of gambling and how it can destroy our lives.